but one of the board members, Darby Bodie, she made things political. In her resolution, she used language to describe things like vaccinations, quarantine, and masks as health risks. She also says that masks and vaccinations are ineffective. Of course, that's contrary to what health experts across the board have been telling us all along.
And the board also made it a point to let parents know there is no plans to mandate vaccines for staff or students.
Previously, some board members said Bodie's resolution is based off misinformation. In fact, many of her claims are in direct opposition to CDC guidelines, recommendations, and information. Several members of the public spoke against the proposal tonight. The final vote was 4-1 against adopting the resolution. The board also voted to authorize membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Bodie wanted to delay that vote because of her questions about the association's equity, diversity, and inclusion practices, among other policies.
I would like to ask that we postpone this vote on OHSAA. They have a DEI summit coming up in April, and I'm not comfortable with their requirement. So I would like to go to that summit to observe what they are discussing with DEI. And then I'm also not comfortable with the requirements to ask for pronouns and their sex at the beginning of the season of their paperwork. For several years, the OSHA athlete's physical form completed by the student's physician asks for student sex assigned at birth and also their current gender of identity. So that is children are there. So basically, children are there to play sports, not express their sexual identity, which is only a small part of their identity. I'm concerned that this will make some of the students uncomfortable who are not ready to express their sexual identity and who just want to play a sport like the rest of the class. This is divisive and singling out our students who are different. As in the statement above, they are also forcing our students to question their sex and promoting that this is an option, therefore potentially confusing our children. I would like to go to the DEI summit in April. And then this is due date is June 30th. So I think we have plenty of time to kind of do some research and make a decision on this.
Can I ask some clarifying or give you some clarifying?
Let me do something procedurally first. So that
I guess my first comment would be, if you know of a situation where this has impacted one of our kids, let me know. And our athletic directors and the coaches do a really good job of making things work for our kids and families, and they have been. We have two of the best athletic directors in the state of Ohio. If you vote no on OHSAA, our kids, you're limiting our students' opportunities and options. They will no longer be able to participate in postseason tournaments, games, state championships. That's going to impact scholarships. You're taking away an opportunity for our kids, who we have some kids that need sports more than the teams need them. And that would be a detriment. I could see it impacting families and impacting Westchester and Liberty Township in terms of people not wanting to come here if we don't provide those opportunities for our kids. I know of no other public school that offers sports that's not a member of OHSAA. I know they're not perfect. And I know they have things to work on like we all do. But I've never heard that their DEI initiatives would adversely impact our kids or coaches or families. But again, by voting no on OHSA, you're saying no to state champions. You're saying no to college scholarships for our kids, for them to go on and play. You're saying no to athletic trainers. You're saying no to cheerleaders. You're saying essentially you're killing sports in Lakota.
I didn't say that I was wanting to vote no. I just wanted to.
I'm just telling you that if you do, that's what's going to happen. If the board as a body does, that's what would happen.
The due date is until June 30th. So I think it would just give us some time to make that decision.
I worry about the message that sends to our kids and families.
okay, one at a time, board. Something else?
I don't think that we have not had any issues with OHSSA in the past or any of their DEI initiatives. I don't think anything that Mrs. Bodie hears at a conference would change my mind. That's just my opinion. It's limiting too many opportunities for our students.
Mrs. Schaefer.
I'm comfortable with my vote.
Mr. D?
Yes. I believe that you have a very good concern, which I think everybody has, but we have to also weigh the event that we do not continue with this association. There are many companies out there that I don't agree with because of their policies. I Google every day. Do I like Google? No, but I have to Google. I use Facebook every day. Do I have to use Facebook? Yes, because I don't have any option. I use Facebook. Do I like their policy? No. I use YouTube. Do I like their policy? No. But because I don't have any option, I have to use it. So at this point, I believe that we're going to deny our students opportunities that you mentioned. And I also believe that in the past, we've never had any issue like that. If there is, we'll address it. So for that, I believe that we need to stay with this association.
Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
I abstain. I do not have enough information to make a vote.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes.
So the changes are somewhat minor, but their implications could be more significant. So first, there's a paragraph, and then it says it defines what curriculum should be. So I just want to make sure that everyone has read. So as we discussed in committee, curriculum is very broad. And a difference of opinion of how this should be handled. I think I had concern more with the first half, and Mrs. Bodie had concern with the second half of our modifications. Would you characterize that as accurate? Yes. So I am concerned that what does it look like when we say the superintendent shall seek board approval for curriculum, and how broad will that be? I know that our classroom teachers continually modify what they're teaching to meet the needs of the students. I don't want this to become a situation where they're having to submit their curricular materials before the start of school for us to sign off on. So, and with that broad list, I think that leaves that very open to interpretation that concerns me. So I personally would be more comfortable with something where it defines it perhaps as the course of study or the learning objectives, or something that's more defined as to what we're approving, then so it's clear that we don't have an expectation that we're getting every teacher. I used the example in the meeting of every teacher at Hopewell's, curriculum. So that concerns me, and we're going to have some discussion on the curricular review tonight, or is that? Yeah. So I feel like we have professionals that we've hired, and as Kelly and I went to board leadership 201 training this weekend, and they kept talking about your superintendent is your instructional leader. And I just have a concern that we don't bypass our professionals in the realm of curriculum, our superintendent, and those who have much more knowledge than we do about the curricular needs and modifications that need to be made. So,
and I feel right now there has been issues in the community with transparency, and that has been a concern, and we are trying to address that with board approval, because we have not been as involved, not we per se, but I believe the board has not been involved in making decisions with the curriculum as much as we could have. But my concern is going that the board, individual members' request to view classroom-specific materials should be submitted through the superintendent. It should not be done, or should not be unduly onerous. I think onerous and duly onerous is subjective to who is to say what is onerous. That can go either way. And then also at this time, I think, again, we're limiting, this policy is limiting access and is diminishing the board's responsibility and authority. We have a conflict with parents and administration as to what is being taught. This is a trust issue, and its resolve is evidentiary. You cannot put admin and control into looking into this matter. This is an attempt to restrict access to board members. We need to follow the law and take responsibility, authority, and reliability. And then this matter is basically a trust, because the parents see a trust issue. The parents see critical race theory and divisive things in the school that they are concerned about. And we're basically putting Matt as the gatekeeper. And that's his job. Please let her finish. Yeah, sorry. But again, this is limiting access. And I think to do our job appropriately, we need to be able to openly see the curriculum without going through Matt or an assignment.
Other policies, we already, in conflict resolution, policy, public complaints and dispute resolution, policy 9130 have a process in regarding, it says matters regarding material used in district programming. And if somebody has a concern, there is a process that's spelled out. And as we found in other situations, my concern is if you bring the board in upfront, then we cannot be objective arbitrators in the back end. Should a complaint go through the dispute resolution and we've been involved upfront versus allowing it to go through what's in 9130 as the appropriate process, we're bringing ourselves in at the incorrect time. So that is, since we already have how it should be handled with dispute resolution, I would prefer to follow that process and not interject ourselves too early so we cannot be objective in the end.
There has been a lot of concern that has been expressed. I believe that this review is necessary because there have been several questions and concerns as regards the things that are being taught in the class. And it is time for us to have this audit to make sure we clear the air, that the teachers are teaching exactly what is in the curriculum and not outside what is in the curriculum. So I believe that should stand. That's my personal opinion.
So board approval, yes.
Yes,
And
board approval,
go to the
yes.
superintendent.
But
Yes.
everything goes to the superintendent.
Any parent can go to any teacher at any time and ask to see assignments or curriculum or books or whatever they want. I don't believe we ever deny a parent anything like that. I know that Mr. Coney has spent a lot of time talking to parents that have concerns. I feel like us having to approve every piece of curriculum, every lesson plan, every documentation is stifling our teachers to teach the way that they should to engage each student. I think that having to take a lesson plan from every teacher at every minute is something that is out of our realm of responsibility. I don't have a problem with, unless Mr. Miller has a problem being the curriculum gatekeeper, that is what he is hired to do. And if there is an issue, there are many avenues to correct that issue. We know, we've seen them, it's happened. My concern with a parent going to a board member and the same as Mrs. Schaefer and asking for a resolution, there's a chain of command to do that. And now we solving that chain of command because we know this, any one of us would now have more information than the other one. So I just don't think that that's where we need to be involved. Yes, we approve curriculum, and again, I think defining curriculum is important. We really probably should change that part to define what we believe curriculum is. I just don't, we are already losing teachers. We know that in the profession, in the country, not just here. And I think, like Mr. D said, if you have a board member walking into a classroom and asking for a lesson plan without having the teacher having any knowledge that we're coming, I just don't, that's not right. I mean, I was a teacher. You teach based on the state standards and the curriculum and what's happening today in that classroom. Because you walk in there, I promise you that I had a month's worth of lesson plans every single month submitted. And every day I had to tweak those a little bit because of whatever, because of it's snowing outside and there's a 2-hour delay. So now I've got to figure out how to cram that all in. It seems to me that putting these things in policy means we don't trust our staff. We don't trust our teachers, we don't trust our administrators, we don't trust Mr. Miller and Mr. Coney to do their jobs. Am I saying carte blanche, let everybody do what they want and we never review it? No. I'm saying you have to have faith and trust in the people that we've hired.
I would also like to say, to what you just said, that this past year, 2 years, we have basically realized that some of us parents cannot trust what is being taught. Not that it's not saying that there are bad teachers. I'm just saying what some of these teachers are teaching needs to be a little bit more underneath a microscope, and we are concerned. And so I agree that we probably should narrow it down. Like, I would like to add online resources to be approved and TV channels in classrooms that are being watched. Classrooms that are being watched, and there's more that we can dive into. So I will agree that we need to revisit what specifically maybe we're talking about. But we need transparency. We need to see what's going on in the classroom, and we are not seeing that. And so that is why we are concerned, about the curriculum and need more transparency.
Let me start first with, we need to remember, I think, when we look at this, that policy sets direction from the board. The superintendent then or the treasurer then develops the process by which it will be implemented. So in my mind, in suggesting this policy change, I expect that the direction is given to Matt, and that Matt, as the superintendent, develops that process for how that curriculum approval process happens. I am not thinking about, we walk through weeds on doing that. That's not our job.
No.
So let me clarify that right there, is that's going to be up to Matt to come back and say, okay, we're going to look at doing it this way, does this work? Secondly, we talked about 9130, which I think is terrific. We do have a complaint. I think that this policy works in conjunction with 9130. 9130 is reactive, something's already happened, there's a parent concern, there's a student issue that's happened. In this particular case, we would be proactive instead, looking at are there concerns with whatever it is. And again, we don't know what that process will look like yet. But I think it has to be proactive, and if there are issues, we also have reactive. So I see it working together. And then towards your point, Mrs. Schaefer, which I think was a great question about the purposes of this policy, is the second paragraph down. I agree with the A through C. But I also believe these pieces should probably be added to that, again, straight out of Ohio Revised Code. Survey or questionnaires, textbooks, workbooks, software, video, other instructional materials being used by the district. And it's not that I want to see all of those pieces, but they should be accessible to our board should the case arise. We have 17,000 students, and there is no way for a district this size for 5 of us to understand everything that's happening in the classroom every day. Again, Matt's 100% accountable for what happens.
Ms. Bodie, I feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from. Trying to get to the classes and see what is being taught in the class. If it is possible, if it is okay, I would have said yes to that. But I think that is not our job as board members. Our board members to make sure that the curriculum is exactly what it is and is approved. So I agree with you because I've had so many concerns sent to me as well, to all of us, that some things are taught in class. I believe there are some teachers that are teaching things that are not in the curriculum. So that is a different ballgame. If we get the review done and somebody else is acting outside the curriculum, then I think Mr. Miller will have to take care of that. That's what I think.
I think if someone brings up a concern to a board member per se, that we should be able to contact the principal or possibly the teacher to find out more information about this assignment in question. And I feel like you're putting Matt as the gatekeeper, and I feel like what is he trying to hide if he wants to go through them, and he doesn't trust.
Madam President.
And he doesn't trust his teachers to allow
Mrs. Bodie, let's move on.
transparency.
Let's move on. When we start getting into personal comments, we're not productive anymore, so I think.
Mr. Miller, I thought you're going to be mentioning about my concern on social emotional learning. Are you going to give us an update on that?
Yeah. So that was tied into, we're going to do an audit, including social emotional learning coming up. So we're taking a look at what we do now in terms of social emotional learning K-6. And that's going to be part of the audit that we're going to do hopefully this spring.
So what with the audit? I thought social emotional learning is already established and it's accepted in the system.
Yeah, we do have classes tied into social emotional learning. Some of it's directed to the COVID fallout, but we're going to take a look and audit what we're doing with SEL, with social emotional learning, and see what changes and tweaks we have to make, especially since we were in essentially year one of doing that.
Okay, I think I'll be making, I'm going to be voicing my concern on some of the requests I made before.
Right.
On social emotional learning.
Yep.
And they're part of the Ohio's learning standards.
They are part of the Ohio learning standards as well. But I'll bring you into the fold when we go through, in the whole board, I'll bring you into the fold when we go through what the audit's going to take a look at and what we've done with SEL.
But that does not mean we have to implement SEL into our school. No, it does not.
Please, thank
It's
you.
not law.
So I know, to your point,
Mrs.
Mr.
Bodie?
Adi,
Yes.
Let's rephrase.
I know that there might be some concerns around SEL from some of our parents, and we've tried to address those. And
Yes.
so when they come up, we'll continue to do that. But as you know, it's such an overall branching term. Some of the pieces in SEL are good. Some of them maybe not so good, and we have to take a look at that.
Yep.
And I know that's what your concern is probably.
But I think that's a personal judgment.
Right.
Because I believe that some parents want to opt out.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a mandatory program if some parents are not interested in it. So it should be optional.
I think there are some parts that they could probably opt out of. We'll have to take a look at what that is and what matches up.
Okay.
So I'm agreeing with you.
Yes.
Should we expect to see changes for next school year?
Absolutely. Always.
Thank you.
We're never finished.
And I also voice a concern on the data collection company that is involved.
Okay.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Yeah.
Which
we're looking at the effectiveness of Panorama moving forward. So
are we using Panorama right now?
We do use some components of Panorama right now. Yes.
Okay. So that's one of my concerns as well.
Yep.
So we'll look for a future update.
Yep.
Let's go to legislative.
Sure.
Superintendent and treasurer.
The only one I wanted to mention, it's been kind of legislatively slow on some things. I know that they're talking about the property value complaint system, and that's out there. The one that I thought was sort of applicable to all of us is the state board is looking at the report cards again, and by the end of March, they'll be instituting a 5-star system, which to me sounds like A through F under the Kasich administration. We can call it whatever we want, I guess. But there won't be a school rating or a district rating based on this academic year, just because of everything, all things COVID. So I just want to point that out. So I think by March 31st, there'll be firm report card rules moving forward. So I guess they're getting back into the swing of things as well. That was it.
Thank you, Matt. Jenny?
The only thing I wanted to follow up on, I know we've gotten quite a few emails and comments about the backpack bill, which is House Bill 290. Just kind of wanted to talk about the status of that. So I did look the committee schedule for tomorrow, actually, with the Finance Committee, because that's the committee that it has been sent to review, is the House Finance Committee. They have a meeting in the morning at 10 a.m. and this is the first hearing. It's just sponsor testimony. So it's just the two legislators who are sponsoring that bill will be the only two who will be speaking. I did reach out to our lobbyist with our educational organizations. This is the only type of testimony that has been scheduled. And again, House Bill 290 is basically to expand vouchers that are available to children in the state of Ohio. We have approximately 165,000 students that attend chartered private schools. There are approximately 33,000 homeschooled students, and then another 30,000 students currently attending non-chartered private schools. So that's 228,000 students who are either homeschooled or attending private schools. If this, and I'm a finance person, so of course I'm looking at the cost. And so the cost that has been estimated based on just giving the vouchers to the students who are currently enrolled in private school and homeschooled, you would be looking at over $1 billion annually just for those students, not any additional students who would choose to then go to private school or be homeschooled. It would be a cost of at least $1 billion annually just for the students.
That's an additional cost, right?
Additional $1 billion. So I know that's one of those questions that's been brought up. And I wanted to just put that out. Of course, I have big concerns about that. We talked about school funding, and Julie mentioned that House Bill 110 established a new way that we fund schools in the state of Ohio, and we proposed the Fair School Funding Plan was a proposal for a 6-year phase-in, which if it was fully phased in, Butler Tech would not have to lobby as much about that cap. But again, it's only a 2-year, they only agreed to do 2 years. So just lots of things, but I wanted to just kind of talk about what is the status, what I learned today. The other thing for any of our community who would like to watch that sponsor testimony, you can view any of these committee meetings on the Ohio channel. So you can go to the Ohio channel, the finance committee will be online. You can watch that live. They will record them and you can watch it later if you would like to. But the other thing I want to say is I'm encouraged by just our community being interested in the school funding or things that are going on at the state level. So, you know, reach out to your legislator. That's the other thing. This is in the House, and actually one of the co-sponsors of this is Jennifer Gross, who represents Lakota. And so I would encourage you, you know, pro or con, if you reach out to your representatives and let them know how you feel about things. So
Anything further?
That's it.
So I have several things, Kelly, if that's all right. I'll go ahead and walk through those. We've been asked by several people if we were willing to do some kind of a resolution that stated we supported this or we didn't support it. Quite honestly, I want to show this to you. This is not normal. This bill is 19 lines, not 19 pages, 19 lines long. There's no detail to it. There's absolutely nothing that tells you how it's going to be implemented or anything really to object to at this point in time. So I think we need to continue to track it, but there needs to be a lot more to it before you can voice an opinion on it.